Hi everyone. This looks a little better. This looks like we might actually be live. I have tried a couple times and it keeps not wanting to go live. You might have had me for a second briefly before, and then it told me that the live wasn't working. So I'm just trying to pull things up on my end and see if the stream is there. Hopefully it is. If you are there, please say hello. And let me know if it's showing up on your end, and hopefully we will stay connected. We had a power outage today so that the city could trim trees in our neighborhood, and the notice must have come while we were away because we were not aware, and it must have blown away because the same thing happened when they were working on the sewer lines. That notice, I actually found it crunched up in our hydrangeas when I was cutting off the dead ones. Hi, Ramona. Okay, I'm glad it's there. I was live supposedly a few minutes ago, and it kicked me out again, but I don't think it actually aired because it looked different on my end from just my phone, but not the feed. I couldn't see anything on the feed. Did you see anything on the feed a little bit ago? Let me know if it popped up at all for you. I don't think it actually showed up publicly there, but anyhow, it looks like we're here now, so hopefully it stays. We had to tether to my phone again today, so hopefully that will work. The internet is still, it went down again. We had no power at all, and then when it finally came back on, it kept kicking Ryan out of his meetings for the last little bit of the day once the power's back on, and we thought it was all fixed for me to go live, but then it wasn't. So anyhow, we're here now, and I will just going to turn the volume down on my end so I can open the video and follow along with comments. All right, so I have two cards to make for you guys today. I am going to start with this one, and then I'll move on to this one here. And hopefully, hey Audrey, how are you? And then hopefully they shouldn't take too long. You may recognize this one. I have done a similar card with this one, and I actually have another one very similar to it that we are going to be doing with In Color Club tonight. So this one is a case of this card here that I had done on a live a little bit ago. It was like a Mexico case. This is the one that some of you will be getting with the Cinco de Mayo as the Cinco de Mayo special thank you card. And this one is a case of this. So I just switched out the colors and the elements. Yeah. Me too. It's like, seriously, Audrey's just saying, glad that we have power again. It is a sure reminder of the conveniences we have in life. Like, I couldn't warm up my breakfast, and once we were out of water, hot water, it was like, okay, that's not going to heat up new water. All those kinds of things that you just take for granted. I like having the TV on for background noise when I'm working on anything. So just all those silly little things that we just take for granted when we have to go a day without them, but we survived. We're all good. Makes us appreciate what we have and think of the people who don't have those things, that's for sure. So anyhow, this layout is a case of this card. I just switched all of it out for DSP and then different elements from the suite. And then I will quickly show you guys this one here. So those of you who are in Color Club, you will get to see a peek here at one of the cards that we're making tonight. So I cased this one here to make this for In Color Club. Hi, Linda and Denise. And then decided that while I was working with this layout, I would use it again for these ones here. I like to show you guys that you can use the same layout with different products so that you don't feel so stuck in having to come up with new layouts or thinking that once you've used it, you can't use it again. You certainly can. So that is this, basically the same card three ways. So I'll put this aside and I will give you guys the details of these ones here. So I'll quickly review the bundle again, or the suite. With the suite, we have the Flowers of Beauty bundle, which is this one here, and these dies. So we have all of this. I was telling you guys yesterday, I love these border, or not, you could use it as a border, but I love these floral elements. So this is these ones here. And then we have the coordinating greetings and layering labels for dies. So this actually belongs here. I, of course, use that one here. And there is, this flower actually goes with the labels. So you do get some of the flowers with the labels as well. And this one goes with the labels. So I have used these ones here, these ones, and this one here on the card. And then I brought in some stamps from the Flowers of Beauty and stamped a little bit here. And then I used the greeting from this one here. I used the With Sympathy. Just a reminder, what you see on the case is not the full size. They are a little bit bigger in real life. So if you were to compare the With Sympathy here, you can see that that is bigger, the actual greeting. Okay, so that is the bundles. And then we have the glitter paper. So I've used a little bit of that today right here. That is the Petunia Pop shimmer paper or glimmer paper. It comes in all of the in colors in 12 by 12 sizes. So you get a nice big piece of that. Linda, I'm glad too. Oh, thank you, Denise. Hi, Karen. I'm glad. I hope that you guys are inspired to try the layout. And then with this one here, I just went really simple. I just did some rows of the die cut flowers. Oh, awesome. You'll have to send me a picture of your country flowers card, Linda. I can't wait to see it. Ramona, you'll be happy to see that too, I'm sure. Ramona loves that sweet. All right, so I just die cut strips of the small flower. I actually did both sizes and then I decided on just using the small and not to layer them. I thought it looked a little bit cluttered with both stacked for this clean layout. So I went with just the small. So I do have lots cut, which just by running through each die with a strip of each color, look how many flowers. And this is after I've already made my sample. So I've got all these die cut flowers. So I will have lots in there to make this card. All right, so I'll move this one aside and I'll make this one first. Now, I just realized that you guys are gonna get to see me prep this today. Hi, Sharon, how are you? And Karen, got a couple of Karens here today. All right, so this one is a Berry Burst card base. That one is 5.5 by 8.5. And then I have a, just excuse me while I fade away for a second while I grab the paper. Then next is, oh, I grabbed the wrong paper. I grabbed thick white instead of basic white. And I prepped one card and I forgot to prep the other, but it does not take long to prep, so you guys will get to watch me prep it. How about that? Hopefully that helps some of you. I know often people will ask me, how do you know where to start with cutting down your paper? So today you guys get to learn. All right, so this white one, or the basic white layer, is 4 5/8 by 3 1/8. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a 3 1/8 strip off the 11-inch side here. And then I can rotate this and cut it at 4 5/8. Now that leaves me enough here to cut another one, which I'm actually going to do. And then that way, if anybody earns the card kit this week, I will have this one ready. That would also leave me with enough left from this remaining piece that I could cut this to 4 5/8, and then I would get 3 of them the other direction. So you can actually get 5 if you cut it like that, so that you have enough. Now I also have some leftover scrap white. So we've got this here, and then I need a pretty peacock layer, so I will give you guys the measurement for that one as well. The pretty peacock it's a wonky measurement. It is a 1/16 less than 3, and I will show you how I cut that, by 4 3/8. So I'm going to just grab my pretty peacock. Okay, so let me just double check. I think I said 4 3/8. So I'm going to cut the 4 3/8 first. So this end here to the 4 3/8. I had a partial piece in my package, so I just grabbed that. Now I am actually going to, this one, Stampin' Up! Used to carry it, Karen. I'm so sorry, but I might be able to find a link to another one. So if I do, I will let you know where I have found it. So now I need to rotate. I just want to make sure that I actually have the right width there. Now I said a 1/16 less than 3. So how I find this, the easiest way to do that is just to go straight to the 3 and then back off a 1/16 of an inch. And this little cutter has that measurement, so it's nice and easy. But if you don't have one with that, go all the way to the 3 and then just back off that 1/16 of an inch. All right, so now we have these 2 layers. That's going to be the focal layer there. And I was going to cut the DSP with you guys anyway, so it's really not much extra prep that you had to wait through. Except for, I do need a little piece of the Pretty Peacock. Now, let me just make sure this is perfect. I had a scrap in one of my bags of scraps. How do you guys store your scraps? I have them roughly by size, and then I put them in a file folder in a drawer. Okay, so this is about 3/4 of an inch, and I need to cut this down to 5.5. And this little cutter does not have that there. So it's not that long. So I'm gonna put this in here to 5.5. It's just that little bit too long. And I have a technique I'm going to do to that as well. But first, we're just gonna get all the layers ready. So I wanna cut the DSP for you guys. All right, so I cut a strip of this paper. This is the Unbounded Beauty DSP that coordinates with the suite. It has this pattern on one side and the stripes on the other. I have the stripes going vertically, so you can always decide which direction you want your paper to go, but I knew I wanted the stripes to go vertically. So I cut it off this way, and I'm going to show you. Same trick that I usually do. I actually don't need this cutter for this piece. I need it for the next one. But this is 2 different pieces that are 1 inch wide. I don't want to use a whole strip of it that's 5.5 because otherwise you have so much waste of DSP behind here. So I just cut a 1 inch wide section to tuck on either end. So we're just going to go to the 1 inch. And then we'll do that again. You could even go narrower if you wanted to. It really only needs to be maybe 3/4 of an inch would be enough, but just to keep it simple, I did 1 inch of that. Now I have one more pattern that I need to cut, which is this one here. And this one is the one I'm going to use I call it a slicer cutter. What do you guys call this one? I call it the slicer. I don't know if there's a better name. You store your scraps in a 3-hole punch sheet protector. That's smart. Hey David, how are you? It's been a while. I have stuff here for you. How have you been? Okay, so we're all gonna wait for David to give me a tip here. We all call that pulling a David. He's always got such efficient ways of doing things. So this one here is going to be 2 3/4. And it is then, just tell you, 2 3/4 by 4 3/8. No, it's 4 1/8. I cut my last one wrong. So 2 3/4 by 4 1/8. So I am going to put this end first to 4 1/8. And I'm going to slice down to the 2 3/4. This is always a trick to do when I'm trying not to put my head in your view. And then now I'm going to put this to the 2 3/4 line. And then I'll bring my slicer back and line this up and go right up to here. Now this should be the right size, but we'll just double check. That's the trick when I go from memory or from just putting my DSP there to see if it'll work. So let me just confirm. Each square is 1 3/8 by 1 3/8. So this should be right. If not, well, I'll just cut a new piece. Okay, so we will give this a try. So now I'm gonna bring in my little cutter. I like using this one for small measurements. And we're gonna go to 1 3/8. We'll just make sure that this works out. Okay, so we have 2 pieces now that are 1 3/8, and I wanna be mindful of my pattern. So these are, it's a rectangle, and then when I cut the squares, I maintained the pattern that you would have seen in the full piece. Hi, Louise. All right, so I want to keep that here. Now, first I'm going to decide, I think I want my pattern to go this way. So I'm going to just keep this on the bottom so that I know where to line this up to. So that is 1 3/8 and 1 3/8. This one went here. This one went here, and this one went here. So there's our squares for the top. And then now we need to cut this to 1 3. Oopsie, I almost went 1 5/8. Don't do that. It will not work out if you do that. I did that yesterday. It's kind of frustrating when you do that. Especially if you don't have a lot of paper, but thankfully it was the first piece of paper, so we're good. So that is my 6 squares that are 1 3/8 by 1 3/8. All right, now I have the label pre-die cut. I have my little glitter flower pre-die cut, and then I have these little pretty peacock sprigs pre-die cut. First though, I need to work with this strip here. So I've actually textured this. It's hard to see on camera, but it's got some texture. And first I tore the bottom, just like I did when I showed you guys this card here. I decided to do the same. So I'm just gonna do a little bit of paper tearing first. And because this scrap was already in my bag and it's close to the width that I want, I've gotta be pretty conservative with how much I rip off. If I was to cut a fresh piece, I probably would have cut it to about 1 inch. So that would give me more to be able to grab onto for tearing here, but that's okay. All right, so I have this, and then I'm gonna texture that with the Dashing Designs. This is a 3D embossing folder. So I'm going to just place that in here, and I will just disappear for a moment behind me to my stamp cut and emboss machine, and I will run that through and I'll come right back. So I'm still here, just running this through here. There we go. So now we have a textured piece. All right, that should be everything. We just need to score our card base. So the card base is 5.5 by 8.5, and we're gonna score this. Excuse all the little negative spaces of glitter all over my Simply Scored. So this is 5.5 by 8.5, and I'm going to score this at 4 1/4. I like a tent fold, but if you were doing this the other way, if you wanted a book fold, then you would cut at 4 1/4 by 11 and score at 5.5, and then you would get a book fold. Some people prefer book fold, so you can easily switch it up for the other direction. Okay, so now that's ready. We are going to just place these things here, and before these get all tossed around, I'm actually going to glue those on. So what we want to do first is a dry fit, which is just placing them on without adhesive, just to get everything in place and line it up. So if you missed the beginning, this was to mimic that tile look. So I purposely chose a dark layer, the Pretty Peacock, to go behind this so that the lines would show up and have a nice contrast to the DSP. All right, so I put slightly more border around the edges than between, but you could try to make it all even if you wanted to. Now I am using Tombow today because I want to have a little bit of flexibility when I place these down so that they don't just stick and then not move if I need them to. I was making my In Color Club thank you cards and I cased Melody Hyde. She's at Hammond and Penny. Oh my gosh, you guys, she's one of my favorite card makers. I mean, I love cards that anybody makes, especially when I get one. It's just nice to receive a card. But I cased her when I saw her card, and it is the, so within Color Club this month, we are featuring the Leaf Collection background stamp, and obviously it's in colors, and it's the first month, so they will only have one of their colors so far. So I cased a card of hers where they will actually have, their thank you card will have all of the colors stamped in the Leaf Collection. So I'll show it to you, but Tombow was my friend when I was assembling those cards, that's for sure, with all the little layers of the different colors. What type of adhesive do you guys like? I know people tend to either love or hate Tombow. It's not for everyone, but I didn't use it for the longest time. And then I got back into it. There we go. So that is, I'm a little bit off on this one, but that's okay. It will have, this will be over top of that. So once this is there, you won't see that slight variation in the width of that square. But if you weren't going to cover that, you could always just, when you're doing your dry fit, check for that and trim a little off if you needed to. Okay, so now I can put this aside and I will do my stamping first. You use any adhesive, that's good. You are not exclusive to one or another. All right, so now I have Versamark and the With Sympathy greeting, and I'm going to use the embossing buddy. And I have a scrap sheet, so I'm going to just pull that in here. So I want to make sure that I always try to make sure I use my embossing buddy. I find that I'm much happier with the result if I do that. So it takes a little bit of extra time, but worth the result. So now I'll ink this up with Versamark. And I'm just going to stamp that in the middle. I think this is such a good greeting stamp set. There we are. And then I have my white powder. This is such a good label too. This one I think will be another one that very rarely leaves my magnetic tray. It'll probably just stay there because that's a pretty versatile label. I like that Audrey caught my terminology the other day. Instead of it being generic, it's versatile. I like that. All right, so we'll heat set this. So if anyone is interested, you use a lot of different adhesives, Denise. If anyone is interested, I have one spot left in my In Color Club, or I'd like to fill at least one more spot. Could always take more than that, but I would like to fill at least one more. And even though we start tonight, you could still get the replay and the card kits if you're interested in joining. I'll show you the cards afterwards, but I would love to fill that spot. And all right. On another note, if you are interested in participating with the class, the Unbounded Beauty class, if you use this host code here and place a $65 order or more, you will qualify to get the supplies for this week's cards. And then with a $75 order or more, you will actually get the Global Creative Project tutorial, which has 12 PDF and video tutorials featuring this suite. So that's an option for you too. The tutorial is available outside of a purchase as well. You can buy the tutorial straight up, and it is available both in and out of Canada, but the product is only available in Canada. So if you're watching from another country and you want the tutorial, you can purchase just the tutorial. but or even from within Canada. But if you want the product, then you do have to be from within Canada. So I've inked this one up from, or sorry, with Pretty Peacock. That is this stamp here. And I'm just going to nestle this around the greeting. There we go. So you can see that. And then I'm going to put some on the other side too, but I'm going to go a little bit less on this one. So I'm not going to come in quite as close or with as much. So just a little bit less on that side so that it's not perfectly symmetrical. All right, now we can close this up. That's actually all the stamping there is on this card. Yesterday we had a little bit more on this one here. So this was yesterday's card. So we stamped this part here and then some texture on that as well. But that's the stamping. So now I will assemble this card for you guys. So we'll just move these. We'll actually glue this down first, just so there's less layers floating around. And for this, I just used Tombow. Now, I purposely went with a smaller reveal of Pretty Peacock and a larger reveal of white. I don't always like all my layers to have the same amount of matting. Hi, Leanne. I like to switch it up so it doesn't look just so matchy-matchy. Okay, now I'm going to place my sample card next to this one. I want to make sure my fold is at the top, and I'm going to bring in my two little strips here. So the trick was, if you're just joining in, you don't need a strip of DSP to go the whole width of your card. You've got all this dead space behind here that you're not going to see. So if you want to conserve your DSP, just trim a little bit for either side, and then you can make better use of your DSP. So you guys will see me share that tip with you a lot. I will often do that with ribbon as well, though today, well, maybe I will. We'll see what I feel like cutting when I get to the ribbon part. My sample does have ribbon the whole way through, so now I'm just going to shuffle that over, and then I'll use this one as my guide to place this one down. Now, if you're wondering if you're not going to have a sample next to you to line this up, these are just centered top to bottom on the height of the card. All right, now this piece here is going to go down across the whole width. And it is, I did some paper tearing on the edge before I embossed it, so it is not going to be perfectly even all the way across. That's okay. Now I will need to trim a little bit off. I can see that this one is a little bit too big, and I did purposely offset this a bit to the bottom. So I didn't perfectly center that. That's another, I don't always have the same amount of matting. I don't always center things either. Sometimes I do, but not always. Okay, now we have ribbon. So this is in the annual catalog. They're not in the bag anymore, so I can't remember what these ones are called, but you get, I think they're in the country, oh, what's that suite called? Ramona and Linda with the country birdhouse. I think they're in that suite. You get the petal pink and the white. They come together. So this white is going to be one of my favorites. I have a feeling I may have lots of this one left over in the end. So I will actually, what I did on this one is I just laid the strip across the whole way. But what I'll do here is I'm actually going to cut two separate pieces. Now that I'm talking about how I will easily use up this ribbon, I'm just going to cut two small pieces and I will stick those down. So for these, I used a little bit of tear and tape. So that is going to go right here and right here. There we go. Put my Tombow back. And then with this small little piece here, I can just place that right there. And this tear and tape will hold this nicely, and place that right there. This one needs to come a little bit higher because this end is a little wider. So I want them to be even to the top from one to the other. And with a little bit of tear and tape, it is easy to reposition if you need to. Just straighten that out a little bit. There we are. So now I have saved that big chunk in between. Next, this is going to get dimensionaled on top. I am definitely a creature of comfort, so when I like a layout, you guys have probably noticed this, I really like to use it in a variety of ways, but I also like that that teaches you guys you don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time, right? I hope that that's what you gather from that anyway. I hope you guys aren't afraid to reuse a layout, whether it's with the same product or different product. Okay, now this is centered, or I'm going to try to center this on the card. And I'm going to try to get it straight, but that's very tricky sometimes when I can't stick my head right above it. All right, so we have that so far. Now we're going to get these little elements ready. So I want to pop out these little negative spaces. This, again, if you're just tuning in, this is cut from the In Color Glimmer paper that is part of the suite. It comes in 12 by 12 size, and you get one of each of the new In Colors. So I have a couple little spots to pop out of this one too. And a few to pop out of this one. Well, you could leave them too. It's not really a big deal, but I'm just going to take those out. There we are. Okay, so I'm going to stick a glue dot on the back here. I have a couple size glue dots, so I'm going to put a glue dot on the back, and then I am going to position, I'm going to just use this as a guide here again. So I'm going to cinch that down a little bit. That one is going to go right there. And then this guy, I need to put a little glue dot in front of this one and stick that to the back there of this. And this one is going to just angle out that way. Now, this is fine that that's too long, but I need to put an extra glue dot on the back here now because the first glue dot has held the little sprigs. So now I want another glue dot so that I can hold all this together and adhere that down. All right, so I have not attached this yet. This is just my guide at this point. Now I can reach this in, and I don't want that little glue dot to grab it just yet. There we go. Now I can press that in place. Now I can get this ready and stick that down. Here's another adhesive question for you guys. Do you all use black dimensionals and white dimensionals, or do you just use white? I love having both, especially when you're using dark cardstock. It's nice to have the black ones, though I will switch it up sometimes if needed, but there we go. Now this is just centered as well, as best I can anyway. If it's a little off, that's all right. There we go. Now, all that is left, I decided not to add bling. If you were to recreate this card, you could always add bling, but I kind of liked it just as it was with that little bit of glimmer and the white twine bow. So I will add the white twine bow. And I just like to tie this off the spool if I can. I can't always, like yesterday I wrapped around the card, so I did snip it off the roll. Yes, Linda, me too. I love having both sizes. I find that there's definitely a use for more than one size. Now, you guys, I still need to get my scissors fixed. I could just open a new pair of snips. They work fine for paper. It's just for ribbon and twine. Hi, Kathy. How are you? All right, so I have my twine bow ready to go. And I will just stick that down to one of these glue dots. And then I like to pick it up with a piercer or the tip of my scissors. And then I'm gonna just tuck this right in here. I'm good. I'm better now that we have power. I was saying though, I really can't complain, right? One day without power is nothing compared to what some people deal with. Like, I can't imagine being inflicted with a major disaster where you go without power and conveniences for a long period of time. It sure makes you think about that, that's for sure. All right, so that is card number 1. And I have 2 cards to make for you guys today. If you are just tuning in, I had promised yesterday that I would make 2 cards for you guys today because I missed Monday. I couldn't go live on Monday. So this is card number 2. It's just nice and simple. It shouldn't take too long to make, but I wanted to show this one to you guys as well. And I love how these ones coordinate with each other. It also coordinates well with the one from yesterday, but I really love these 2 together. So we're gonna do this one next. Now I'll just move this aside and I will bring in the supplies for this one. First though, I'll quickly show you the in color cards. And again, if you are interested in receiving the card kits for this week's cards, you are welcome to place an order of $65 or more with this host code here. Or if you email me an order if you're interested in doing that, I do have an order going in tonight. I can always submit it for you and you can get in on the offer as well. So $65 order or more gets you the card kits. And if it's $75 or more, you will also get the Global Creative Project tutorial, which has the 12 video and PDF tutorials. All right, so I have just your basic thick white base. Oh, I forgot to show you guys the in color cards, so I will do that once I review the supplies. A little bit of a squirrel. Then a 3.5 by 5.5 basic white. That is the layer these are all going to go on. I have 2 scraps of silver that are 5.5 by varying widths. I'll probably trim this one down a little bit. And then I have flowers in all of the colors that are featured on here. So Pretty in Pink, Lost Lagoon, Berry Burst, Pretty Peacock, and Petunia Pop. Then I have the You've Got This from the Unbounded Love stamp set. And that's all that there is other than a strip of basic white. I'll probably not even use this one. I think I will cut them off of this little strip here. Nope, that's too short. Let's see. I will cut them off of this one. Nope, I have some little strips. This is just a little strip behind here just to give a little bit of filler and a little bit of texture. So before I create that, I will quickly show you guys the in color cards. If you are interested in joining in on In Color Club, I have a spot to fill. We are featuring Leaf Collection tonight, and you can still get the kits even if you join after tonight. So we will be making this card together, which is the case of this one, and is what inspired this card here today. And then we are going to be making this one, and I actually cased Emma Goddard. I told you guys about her yesterday, and you probably all know about her anyway, but she had created a card in white and gold like this. So I switched out the colors for all of the in colors, and we will be making this one here. The card that I made for them as the thank you is this one here, which I cased from Melody Hyde. She's at Hammond and Penny. She works at Concept Art at the home office. And she had done a layer like this here. So this is where I was telling you guys earlier that Tombo was my friend so that I could just slide these layers into place. And then I used the, I think it's called Thanks for Everything maybe, the paper pumpkin dies I used to die cut that. Hers was, she stamped, I think white on black or black on white greeting. I can't remember, but I just went with the simple die cut thanks. So that is the thank you card they'll get. So you can comment or message me if you think you would like to join in Color Club. We'd love to have you. All right, so move these aside and we're going to get into this card. I do still need to cut those little strips, but I want to take out 3 of the small in each color. And I think I was telling you guys yesterday that you could always switch things up. Rather than rhinestones, you could always switch out the little center circle because this small one, it actually cuts the circle separately, and it looks like mine might have hit the garbage, but That was not intentional. So you could always pop a different color of center in there if you didn't have all the rhinestones. Okay, now we've got Lost Lagoon. So that was pretty in pink. Then we have 3 Lost Lagoon. Put the rest of these away. Then we have 3 Berry Burst. Thank you, Linda. There we are. And then 3 Pretty Peacock. I love a simple card, and I feel like this is a simple card that we could just make a pile of them in a hurry if we needed to. And everybody needs encouragement, right? But you could always switch that greeting out to anything that you need a card for. You could even, because there's no dimensionals in this, you could also make these in advance and then just stamp on them as you need them. I don't tend to do that because there's often dimensionals in my layers, and then it's harder, right, to stamp on it after. And I might even still be afraid that I might screw that up if I stamped on it once it was all together, but you never know. Whoops, I missed putting one back. There we are. So hopefully for tomorrow, nothing will happen with our power. Tomorrow I will go live at 7, just for anybody who is wondering. Got a little flower center there. So we're going to move these aside, and I want to trim a little bit off this silver. Just with all the internet troubles, I am not going to attempt going live while I'm home on my own during the day with the dog and potential internet issues. So we'll wait until evening, and I'll go live at 7 when I have helpers around. Sound good? I'm sure you guys completely understand that with all the troubles we've had. Gosh, since we got home from our trip, internet has been so wild. Especially, Ryan figures it was the full outage that just, I don't know, maybe it needed to work some things out, but it could also just be that it's been wonky. So we're going to have to look into that. And now that I grabbed this little cutter, I need the bigger one so that I can cut a 5 1/4 inch strip. So I'm sure we all have a whole pile of these strips. So that is why I decided not to cut into this. I may as well save that and make use of some of my 1/2 inch strips. I have a whole section in a drawer, which they're super useful for little greetings, and they're useful for things like this. All right, every so often I thin them out, but for now, these are super useful. So the supplies for this one, just a quick review, 4 1/4 by 11 card base. You could always switch this out for the other orientation if you wanted to. A 3 1/2 by 5 1/2 layer for the middle. And then I have 2 strips of silver, just silver scrap, that are 5 inches long, and you could go as wide as you want to. Then I have 2 little strips that are 5 1/4 long and about a 1/2 inch wide that are just going to sit behind here. Now I didn't want this full layer behind here because it ends up pushing this away from the fold more than I would want it to. So that's why I decided to go with the little strips down the side instead. If you're more comfortable doing the full layer behind, you can always do that. But when you receive the kit from me, it will be the strips is what I will send you, just so that you have the same pieces according to how I'm assembling it in this video. All right, so what we will do first is I'm going to just distress the layers or the edges of these layers a little bit, and we're going to glue them down to get them out of the way. So this is just a very gentle distressing. I wanted to have just a little bit more dimension than gluing them flat with no texture because the card is so flat. I did try embossing these layers. I played around with a few different textures when I was designing this one, and I just didn't love it. But if you want more texture and you have a folder that you love, don't be afraid. If I had that crosshatch still, I probably would have gone for that. But I mean, I have one for myself, but it's not current anymore. So, okay, so the top and bottom and side are distressed, and this is coming off. So we'll just adhere that. And I am just doing equal space on all 3 sides. So that's going to go down like that. There we go. Same with this. There we go. So those are all done. We're going to move this out of the way. And now with this one here, I'm going to save these. We'll put these down after. We're going to close this up. And we are going to line up all of these little flowers, guys. Maybe I could get that straight. All right, so these are going to need to move over. They are not far enough. They're going to need to go about right here. And they don't need to all be facing the same way. I didn't want them all completely facing the same way as each other. So hopefully you guys don't mind a mix of like simple cards, and sometimes you get more involved cards. Thanks, Kathy. But we don't all have time for every card to be full of technique, right? I'd like to give you guys a variety of different ideas. So we'll just get all this. This is the dry fitting stage. We just get everything lined up. This is not perfectly lined up yet either, and this will probably get bumped a few times. When I was putting my sample together, I used glue dots. So not every time, but a few times when I was placing the flower down, my finger would stick and it would lift it and all the flowers would move. Or some of them would move. Once I got my middle and outer 2 columns in, it was a little bit better. It kind of contained everything. But there we go. Now, if you were super picky, you could measure and mark. And I am normally super picky. Those of you who stamp with me would probably be like, what? You did not measure and mark? Nope, I didn't. But would anyone know? I hope that whoever gets the card won't take out anything to measure. So I didn't either. Now, I did peel 1 flower off and put it back on twice, but same flower. I just couldn't seem to get that one right. But this is all I did. I just did a quick dry fit, and then I'm going to try using my, what's this thing called? Take your pick tool this time. There we go. Now, hopefully this will be a little more friendly in placing things down than sticking my finger on there. Oh, but see, look, I went a little low. That's okay. This one will go a little lower too. How about that? And then you could always, my gosh, okay, I'm gonna have to use my tweezers to put this down. You could always fold the tips forward when you're all done. There we go. Now I'm actually going to peel this one off. Oh, look what I did, guys. I should have left it alone, right? That's okay. It'll all realign. Now here's a trick. If you need to get a glue dot off, just wiggle it. I feel a song coming on. I'm a bit of a goof, you guys. Some of you have been witness to witching hour, even when stamping, but witching hour in a good way. It's a funny witching hour. We're a bit silly around here. It's usually Ethan and I. Lennon joins in too. And then some of you join in when you're here as well. We had a little crop here back in March, and it was pretty funny. It was entertaining. Our witching hour. This, I can pick this up with the take your pick tool with less disruption to the petals, but it is easy to place it down with a pair of tweezers. So pick up with that and place down with tweezers, and then ideally you will disrupt your placement less than what I did at first. Picking it up with your fingers every time you just bump things. So I did the middle row first. Whoa, that one's too high and I'm gonna have to move that one after. I learned my lesson on the first one. I'm not gonna move that one until everything else is in place, because otherwise I am going to shake the whole thing. Your take your pick tool is amazing for this. Do all of you have a take your pick tool? I'm gonna have to move that little yellow, my gosh, get the color straight. Pink one as well. But again, I'm not moving it until, see, this one needs to go out a little and that one needs to come down. And maybe I can even balance it out with these. I might even just leave it. Probably will just leave it. Now, especially in these middle rows, the take your pick tool is even more handy because well, now the flowers are glued down, so I don't really need to be worried about disrupting them, but it is just as easy to pick up with the take your pick tool than trying to stick my hand in there. Now for this one, because those are in place on either side, I'm actually going to stick 2 on at once. And then it's less times that I have to pick up or switch gears between what I'm doing. Okay, now stick this one. And I'm just sticking the centers down to these little glue dots. And then, oopsie, missed one. I've got to press this one a little harder onto the glue dot. There we go. And I'm going to twist this one a little so that they're not all facing the same way. And then twist that one the other way. And this one this way. There. So they will not be perfect, but good enough, I think. Hopefully you guys agree. You can probably see a glaring misalignment that I'm missing at this point. And I will notice it when I go to take the picture is when, so here I'm just wiggling this and that just kind of stretches that glue dot. And now it's still attached to the flower, but now I can move that one out just a little bit. There we go. Simple but difficult. Hopefully it's not too difficult. Okay, now I am going to stamp this very simple "You've Got This" greeting. And I will just show you this stamp set again. So I chose this one here, but you could always do "Feel Better Soon" if you needed that, the "You Are Loved." I wanted just a really simple text in a straight line, but you could always switch it out. Or if you have a different stamp set, don't feel like you have to use this one. You could use any pretty generic greeting or pretty simple greeting to put on there. Now I'm using Memento for this, but you could also switch the color out if you wanted to. So this is just gonna go under here. There we go. So if you were particular about it, you could always stamp that first and then line these up. I just found it less distracting and I was able to line the flowers up a little bit better without something already in the way. And now I'm going to distress the edge just a tad, just like I did on the little borders that are on there. You don't see it very much because it's going to go down on this silver foil. I'm going to bring my little scrap sheet back in. I hid it under my stamp set. So I'm going to bring this back in because I have to run a thin bead of glue And this needs to be very thin because this is a thin strip of silver. Again, I didn't want to waste a bunch of silver, but I don't want that to seep out. So I'm actually going to kind of come from here and slide it towards the outside so that I don't, that'll help use up some of that adhesive so that I don't get any squishing out the side. So that's just a super thin border of silver. It's a little long, so I can clean that up after. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side. Now, if you've been here since I started this card, you would have seen me trim down that one piece of silver. And now that leaves me enough. I could probably do another border with that. It might be a little too thin, but I could always use that just to outline something. So again, I'll just come from the edge and then give myself that really thin border. And then I can just, whoopsie, slid that out a little too far. Slide that out a tad so that they're even on either side. Now, I just need to, I'm gonna use my little cutter to trim that off. I'm always afraid when I use my scissors to do that, when it's a piece like this, that I am going to cut crooked. There we go. So it's just that little hair, but it took that little end off. Okay, so that is this layer here. And now we can assemble the card. So this is gonna go down here and I'm going to use tear and tape because I want the top to be nice and snug to the fold. If I use my Tombow, well, for one, you'll see the indent on there, but I want to keep this nice and snug there. Whoops. There we go. This doesn't need to run the whole way. And then the bottom, I am going to go just a little bit up from the end because I think the bottom overhangs just a tad. So I want to leave myself some room to cut without running into tape with the cutter. So what I'll do here is I'm actually going to pull the top off first. I'm going to leave these ones in place so that I have something to hold on to while I try to not stick my head right in your view. You probably have my voice a lot closer to you for a moment. That way I can make sure this is all nice and snug, and then I can just reach in here and peel these backings off. But at least that way I'm not fighting with the paper accidentally grabbing somewhere else before I'm ready for it to. I hope that makes sense. So there we go. We have that all lined up. Get rid of these backings. And it's just a tad too long. And now for this, I'll bring back in my big cutter just because it's got a layer to go through. So I don't want to mess that up with my small cutter. And I'm putting it face down so that I don't go through any more than I need to. So I'm just lining this up to the edge, and this will just take a really thin amount off. There we go. So now that's better. It's all lined up. And you can see it's just this little bit, but now it doesn't overhang. There we are. Now there's one more thing I need to add. I decided not to even put any linen thread or baker's twine bows. I just kept this super simple, and I went with the small rhinestones. So I have mine separated from small to medium to large. I have a little case with small, I have a little case with medium, and a little case with large. That way when I have help with prepping kits, it's easier for them to just grab the size that is needed instead of having to decipher that. So that is why mine are separated, but you could always keep yours just in one case. Now I'm going to just use a piercer. I could use a take your pick tool, but I have a pretty good view of where, and then look, I say that and then I need to readjust the first two. Pretty good view of where I'm placing these little rhinestones. Now this will use quite a few, but look at that one, I didn't even put down straight. you get so many more small rhinestones in your package that this is a perfect way to use some of them up. I remember, oh gosh, maybe a year ago, I had so many small rhinestones. And then I did a few classes where we had lots of little flowers that needed little rhinestones. So we used a lot of them up. But the case, look at, I'm down to, that's my only sheet in here right now. But I was like, the case was bursting with small rhinestones. And the nice thing, like I was telling you guys yesterday, and I should have reiterated today, maybe I did, but with the dies, with this die, you can cut so many at once. I had enough to do both cards just by running this through one time. So one time in each color, but you get lots of them in one pass through. So it's not a lot of prep and then it's just basic white layers. You could even skip the silver if you didn't want to add the silver. But that is the card. So I think we were almost a half hour late getting this whole internet figured out, still not figured out. So hopefully it was working to go to my class tonight, because I don't know what we'll do about tethering to my phone for that long, but we'll figure something out. If you're in class, don't worry, we'll figure something out. But I think we got both of those done in just under an hour. And that was including prepping this one with you guys. So these are today's cards. I hope that those inspire you. Hopefully you are inspired to use the layouts, the ideas, even if it's not with this suite, you can use them with something else. If you do have this suite, feel free to use these ideas. I always share things to inspire you to create, never to just say, hey, look what I made. It's always to inspire you. And I'm honored when you guys do recreate something from having seen something that I've made. That is like a huge honor. So I love being part of your guys' creative journey. And I'm really grateful that you guys were here to watch, even after that whole internet issue today and yesterday. So hopefully we can get it all sorted out real soon. And if you have suggestions on, I don't know, just strength of connection with the internet, I don't know what the terms for all of that is, but if you have any tips that I can share with Ryan, then please do comment or message me, and hopefully that will help us get this whole connection thing sorted out. So just once again, if you are interested in the kits for this week, you can use this host code. A $65 order will get you one of each of the kits for the cards that I've been making this week. This is yesterday's card, and then I will have another one tomorrow at 7, and then I will sort out the time for Friday, but I'll have a Thursday card and a Friday card as well. Hi Michelle. We are just about done with the Join Stampin' Up special for this month. So if you're interested in that, you have till, I think, Friday is the last day. So you can still get all of the in color products, the ink pads, the markers, the DSP, and the cardstock for free if you join the team this month. And you still have until Friday if you would like to register for my ephemera class. I put the information on my page yesterday, so it is there. There is a little graphic with these cards, and it has the date. It is June 5th. It is $70, which actually gets you quite a lot of product. You get the full ephemera pack of each different type and a package of the, oh gosh, Calm Creek, I think, or Calming Creek card bases. And then I will prep all of the extra materials that you would need, and then we'll gather on Zoom on June 5th, and I'll walk you through making these cards. Basically, the fee is just paying for the product, those kits. It's just the product, the tax, and shipping, and that's it. And then the supplies, the extra supplies, little bling and things, are a gift from me to you. So, and then the extra supplies for this card, because this one uses regular cardstock. But we will be doing those June 5th, not Joan 5th. And the Take to the Sky Suite class, you can register for this one up until Friday as well. And that one is June 11th. And the different price options are listed on the flyer on my page for that one. So maybe you guys will join in, maybe not, that's okay. And I will see you guys tomorrow at 7. If you have any questions, just send me a message or comment, and sending me a message might be better than commenting, just with having a class tonight. So if you do have any questions, just message me and I will get back to you. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow.